could be achieved if we do not protect first life of those who defend their territory and the most important ecosystems, social ecosystems we need for counteracting climate crisis. So there's no climate action without climate justice. That's why we need your help to put pressure to our countries, because they're not saying a single word. And here they are greenwashing all the things they do back home.
We would like your help now. You can help us because our government does not care what we say in Colombia, but they care what Europeans think. So right now, we need all of your voices together to ask our government to ratify the Escazú Accord. Here is how to say it. Let's practice. Escazú. So now I will say, what do we want? And you're going to answer Escazú. And when do we want it? Now. Are you ready? Yes. What do we want? Escazú. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Escazú. When do we want it? Now. Thank you very much.
Well, next we have a speaker I'm very, very excited to introduce. You might have seen her on the cover of Time recently. Vanessa Nakate from Uganda. Good luck.
Thank you for coming out here. Once again, we are faced with another COP event. How many more of these should they hold until they realize that their inactions are destroying the planet? We are seeing the impacts of the climate crisis. I come from Kampala, Uganda, a country that has one of the fastest changing climates in the world. And allow me explain it this way. Abantu bafa, ennimiro z'abantu ziggwawo, abaana tebakyagenda ku masomero. When I say this, I mean people are dying, children are dropping out of school, people's farms are being destroyed. Tetumanyi the kind of future we are going into. We are in a crisis. We are in a disaster that is happening every day. Ebyamaguzi by'abantu bigwawo, amataba mu Kampala and different parts of the country. When I say that, I mean floods are ravaging different parts of Kampala, different parts of Uganda, and across the African continent. Historically, Africa is responsible for only 3% of global emissions, and yet Africans are suffering some of the most brutal impacts fueled by the climate crisis. But while the African continent, while the global south is on the front lines of the climate crisis, they are not on the front pages of the world's newspapers. We've seen activists from the most affected areas being erased from pictures, from conversations, and removed from rooms. But how will we have climate justice if people from the most affected areas are not being listened to? The climate crisis is here now, but the dry land can be glad again. The farms can blossom again. The animals can rejoice because there is water to drink. There is a loud singing in once parched lands. The pain and suffering is gone. There is a celebration of the people because the disasters are gone. Our history is visible. There is no fear of losing it. We won't have to just tell our children about our cultures because they will see and experience them themselves. We won't have to fight for limited resources because there will be enough for everyone. There is food to drink, there is food to eat and water to drink. Children can go to school with no fear of dropping out. There is joy and singing because finally no child can be forced into marriage. Once flooded places will dry and bloom again. There is triumph in the city because the power of the people finally won. The world is green again. Nature has been restored. The planet and creation is respected. Another world is necessary. Another world is possible. And this is just a glimpse of it. And today, we shall continue to fight on in everywhere we can. We cannot give up now. We need to continue holding leaders accountable for their actions. We cannot keep quiet about climate injustice. Your actions matter. No action is too small to make a difference, and no voice is too small to make a difference. Let us keep the faith for the future. Which faith will give us the hope for the world not yet seen, but the world that we can imagine, the world that I just told you about. And above all, the love for the people and for the planet. Three things should stay with us as we continue to organize and mobilize and strike and speak up and demand for climate justice. That is faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these things is love. Because when we continue to love the people, when we continue to love the planet, that will be the strength we need to fight for a future that is sustainable, that is healthy, that is clean and equitable for all of us. Thank you.
That was incredible. I'd like to invite our second last speaker, Ina Maria from Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Glasgow. Oh my goodness, so many people. How are we doing? Yo, before I start, I would like to honor all of the defenders, our indigenous people that came all the way here to deliver their messages. Honor the sacred, honor the indigenous people that are all here today. My name is Ina Maria Shikongo. I come from Namibia, a desert, a beautiful country, surrounded by two deserts. And today we have a company all the way from Canada, wanting to frack up the Kavango, putting my people at risk. And I am asking COP26 today, why do you keep on whitewashing everything? Stop talking about the Nazi genocide only. Let's talk about the genocide that you have imposed on our people. Globally. You colonialists, you came to our continent, you took our ancestors, you enslaved them. That was the genocide. You went to the Americas, you caused genocides there, and you never talk about them. You went to Africa, and you are still continuing with your genocides. Boris Johnson, the genocide that you people are endorsing is happening right now. Let's talk about Cambo. Let's talk about Recon Africa. Let's talk about ECOP. What's up with all of these new oil projects? What is happening in Mendoza? Yo, people, we are tired of your neo-colonial trends. The generation that will hold you accountable is this generation. It has been born. We are here today because we know that COP26 won't do anything. They want to continue the massacre that they have been responsible for hundreds of years already. Your wealth is built on the blood of our people. And we want change. We will not give up. We want justice for Ken Saro-Wiwa. You people have to be held accountable for the genocide and ecocide that you have been causing. We want justice for the people in Ecuador. Chevron, stop your lies. Free Don Donsinger, Stephen Donsinger, free him. You cannot keep on oppressing our people. You cannot keep on coming to our countries claiming that you are bringing development when all that you are bringing is devastation. You are poisoning our waters. I am here to defend my homeland today. The Kavango, the birthplace of modern humanity, the oldest DNA is in the Kavango. And yet COP26 is there whitewashing, cropping activists out of pictures. What's up with that? We can defend ourselves, and you will defend ourselves. And now I am going to teach you a chant from my homeland. Please repeat after me. Ihatu sholola. I will just add, it means you will never give up. Ihatu sholola. Ihatu sholola. Ihatu sholola. Then again, COP26, please stop your bullshit once again. Thank you very much.
Definitely reiterating that message, stop the bullshit. Next up, we have our final speaker of the night. I am very, very excited to welcome Greta Thunberg.
What a great day. It is not a secret that COP26 is a failure. It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place. And more people are starting to realize this. Many are starting to ask themselves, what will it take for the people in power to wake up? But let's be clear, they are already awake. They know exactly what they are doing. They know exactly what priceless values they are sacrificing to maintain business as usual. The leaders are not doing nothing. They are actively creating loopholes and shaping frameworks to benefit themselves and to continue profiting from this destructive system. This is an active choice by the leaders to continue to let the exploitation of people and nature and the destruction of present and future living conditions to take place. The COP has turned into a PR event where leaders are giving beautiful speeches and announcing fancy commitments and targets, while behind the curtains, the governments of the global north countries are still refusing to take any drastic climate action. It seems like their main goal is to continue to fight for the status quo. And COP26 has been named the most exclusionary COP ever. This is no longer a climate conference. This is now a global North greenwash festival. A 2-week-long celebration of business as usual and blah, blah, blah. The most affected people in the most affected areas still remain unheard. And the voices of future generations are drowning in their greenwash and empty words and promises. But the facts do not lie, and we know that our emperors are naked. To stay below the targets set in the Paris Agreement and thereby minimizing the risks of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control, we need immediate, drastic, annual emission cuts unlike anything the world has ever seen. And as we don't have the technological solutions that alone will do anything even close to that, that means we will have to fundamentally change our society. And this is the uncomfortable result of our leaders' repeated failure to address this crisis. At the current emissions rates, our remaining CO2 budgets to give us the best chances of staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius will be gone within the end of this decade. And the climate and ecological crisis, of course, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is directly tied to other crises and injustices that date back to colonialism and beyond. Crises based on the idea that some people are worth more than others and therefore have the right to steal others, to exploit others, and to steal their land and resources. And it is very naive of us to think that we could solve this crisis without addressing the root cause of it. But this is not going to be spoken about inside the COP. It's just too uncomfortable. It's much easier for them to simply ignore the historical debt that the countries of the global north have towards the most affected people and areas. And the question we must now ask ourselves is, what is it that we are fighting for? Are we fighting to save ourselves and the living planet? Or are we fighting to maintain business as usual? Our leaders say that we can have both. But the harsh truth is that that is not possible in practice. The people in power can continue to live in their bubble filled with their fantasies, like eternal growth on a finite planet, and technological solutions that will suddenly appear seemingly out of nowhere and will erase all of these crises just like that. All this while the world is literally burning on fire, and while the people living on the front lines are still bearing the brunt of the climate crisis. They can continue to ignore the consequences of their inaction, but history will judge them poorly, and we will not accept it. We don't need any more distant, non-binding pledges. We don't need any more empty promises. We don't need any more commitments that are full of loopholes and incomplete statistics and that ignore the historical emissions and climate justice. Yet, that is all that we are getting. And no, that is not radical to say. Just look at their track record. They have had 26 COPs. They have had decades of blah, 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 and where has that led us? Over 50% of all our CO2 emissions have occurred since 1990, and about a third since 2005. All this while the media is reporting on what people in power say that they are going to do, rather than what they actually do. Time and time again, the media fails to hold the people in power responsible for their action and inaction. As they continue to expand fossil fuel infrastructure, opening up new coal mines, coal power plants, granting new oil licenses, and still refusing to do even the bare minimum, like delivering on the long-promised climate finance for loss and damage to the most vulnerable and least responsible countries. This is shameful. Some people say that we are being too radical. But the truth is that they are the ones who are radical. Fighting to save our life-supporting systems isn't radical at all. Believing that our civilization, as we know it, can survive a 2.7 degree or a 3 degree hotter world, on the other hand, is not only extremely radical. It's pure madness. Out here, we speak the truth. The people in power are obviously scared of the truth. Yet, no matter how hard they try, they cannot escape from it. They cannot ignore the scientific consensus, and above all, they cannot ignore us, the people, including their own children. They cannot ignore our screams as we reclaim our power. We are tired of their blah blah blah. Our leaders are not leading. This is what leadership looks like. Thank you for showing up, and see you tomorrow again at the march.
Thank you all so much for coming. That was incredible to hear. I'd like to invite the group from Fridays for Future Glasgow, who are responsible for organising this incredible day. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Thank you so much for coming. There's some music now. Will you leave?
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. That's what I think. Yeah, fucking use the shit away. Okay, buddy. Are you coming tomorrow? Okay, see you then.
1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, I know a lot of you want to leave, but if you don't want to miss some music, then might you stay a little bit longer? Yeah? There's going to be chances to sing along, so, you know, don't want to miss that. Play louder, play louder.
Your mic's on there.
1, 2, 1, 2.
It was good. Can you see it already? Yeah, we definitely
Special edition of the Socialist available this week only. Get it?
I think we want to go to the end.